Carter and Penelope had been married for 7 years. Carter was a few years older than Penelope, and they married shortly after she graduated from college. Penelope worked in an office, while Carter had a job that required frequent travel. He was often away on short business trips to different cities. At first, the wife did not comment on her husband's frequent business trips in any way. However, over time, she began to express dissatisfaction with his absence, and later, it seems, resigned to his work. One Friday evening, the couple attended a housewarming party thrown by their friends. They procrastinated for a long time about choosing a gift and finally decided to stop at a quality liquor store along the way. Although neither of them drank, their friends had a penchant for wine. With the help of the store's consultant, they selected a suitable bottle. At the register, the young man inquired about a rewards card, casting Penelope an expectant look. Carter replied that they didn't have a card, as they rarely shopped at stores like this. After an awkward silence, the cashier offered gift wrapping services. Meanwhile, Penelope informed Carter that she would wait outside due to the stuffiness inside. As the cashier was finalizing the transaction, he whispered, "I'm sorry to intrude, but your wife does frequent our store. I remember giving her our membership card." At first, Carter brushed off the cashier's words, thinking the young man had made a mistake. "That can't be. She doesn't drink at all," Carter objected. "She usually comes in with a tall man, black-haired, gray-bearded, and they choose wines together in our store," the cashier continued. Annoyed and puzzled, Carter quickly paid and left the store. How dare this young man speak ill of his wife? "Honey, is everything all right?" The wife cautiously inquired as her husband entered the car. "Yes, everything is fine. Never mind," he replied. "What's the address of our friend's new house?" A few weeks later, Carter had another work trip planned for a few days. He even went to work that morning with his luggage to catch the evening train. After lunch, however, he was informed that the trip was canceled because the partner was not yet ready to meet with a representative from their firm. Secretly, Carter felt relieved about the trip being canceled. He decided not to inform his wife and instead planned to surprise her by inviting her to dinner. Surely Penelope would appreciate the unexpected opportunity to spend more time together. When he got home that evening, he opened the apartment door and saw Penelope standing in front of the mirror, carefully applying bright red lipstick. Penelope seemed surprised to see him home at this hour. "Shouldn't you be on the train by now?" she asked, avoiding his gaze. "The trip was canceled unexpectedly. I came home to invite you to dinner, but it looks like you were just about to leave," Carter replied, casting a curious glance at his wife dressed in an elegant gown. "Actually, I was planning to meet some friends, but since you invited me, I'll cancel my plans with them, of course. I don't think I even had time to leave before you got back," she laughed, trying to smooth things over. "I'm ready now. Let's go to the restaurant." During the car ride, Penelope exchanged a few text messages and even rejected a couple calls. "The girls are mad at me," she remarked when Carter looked in her direction. She then looked out the window with a grim expression and disconnected her phone. As they continued to remain silent, a disturbing thought occurred to Carter. Penelope had initially seemed uneasy after his unexpected return, and now she didn't seem to be thrilled about spending time with him. Remembering the incident at the liquor store when she had abruptly left the room, he began to wonder if there was something more behind her behavior. What if she was hiding something? Maybe the cashier had seen something after all. During dinner at the restaurant, when Penelope briefly excused herself to use the restroom, leaving her purse on the seat next to him, Carter couldn't resist the temptation to look inside. Among the discount store cards, he found a membership card for the liquor store in question. Had Penelope planned to visit the store that day, assuming he would be away on a business trip? And if so, who was the man she was allegedly with? The next day, during his lunch break, Carter pondered his options. None of his university or high school friends fit the description the cashier had given, and he couldn't think of any similar men among his coworkers. Either it was a complete stranger, or suddenly it hit him. About 6 months prior, Penelope had mentioned that her office had changed supervisors. Carter went to the firm's website and clicked on the section that listed their supervisors. There was the face of her current supervisor, who had held the position for the past 6 months. Upon realizing this, Carter immediately texted Penelope to let her know that she was indeed leaving on a business trip this evening. If she was so anxious to meet her boss, he wouldn't miss the chance to catch them off guard. Toward evening, Carter parked in front of their house and waited. 15 minutes later, a luxury car pulled up to their driveway. Penelope stepped out of it, dressed in an even more elegant outfit than the one she had worn on their anniversary. Carter glanced at the driver and recognized him immediately. Dark hair, graying beard, it was unmistakably her boss. They pulled away, and Carter discreetly followed. As it turned out, they stopped at the liquor store where Carter and Penelope had already bought a gift for their friends. Apparently, it was a recurring ritual. Penelope, however, decided to wait in the car, apparently fearing that the cashier might recognize her. But it was too late to be cautious. After a brief stop, her boss returned to the car, and they continued on their way. The final destination was a private residence in an upscale neighborhood of the city. Convinced that Penelope had entered voluntarily, Carter drew his conclusions and drove back home. The reason Penelope had visited her boss's home was now painfully clear to him. Apparently, Penelope got bored during her husband's frequent business trips, and when the company had a new person in a management position, she found someone to socialize with. Who initiated the affair, her or her boss? Didn't matter. The point was clear. His wife was unfaithful. Carter wasted no time. He gathered Penelope's belongings and put them outside, letting her know that the sooner she took her things, the more of them would remain untouched. She complied, and soon the neighbors were admiring the new blouses and bags left outside. Carter began the divorce proceedings without the slightest regret. Later, he revisited the liquor store and again met the honest young counselor. He thanked the counselor fervently, realizing that he had inadvertently helped him get a better look at the true face of his ex-wife. After all, kindness deserves to be reciprocated.